Well, folks, it is crunch time. The Race Across America 2019 is about to start today. 60-year-old Joe Barr from Ireland is about to start off on a 3,000-mile non-stop race across America. We're just getting the crew car sorted today. We're just getting all the kit, the final kit, into the cars, and we're about to head down to Oceanside Pier. Let's have a wee chat with Noel here. Noel, how are you doing?
Not too bad now.
How are you feeling this morning?
Fresh now, fresh, ready to go. Only a few more hours now to the start line, so.
Yeah. You nervous?
Yeah, I am indeed. No point saying I'm not, you know, but and I'm only crewing, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be long, under 10 days, hopefully, you know.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to it though?
Oh, definitely, yeah, 100%, yeah. It's going to be a chance of a lifetime to watch all this, you know, making a bit of history, you know.
And for those that don't know, you are also an ultra cyclist yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to also get a lot of information from this, and tactics,
yeah,
and whatever. What are you hoping to get?
Keep moving forward. I think that's what it is, to see how you actually keep Joe moving forward without stopping the small, stupid errors, basically, that I might do, you know, stopping minutes here and there, you know, adds up massive, you know, and we'll find that they're over like 5,000 kilometres. We heard it in briefing yesterday, 12 states, 88 counties. When you hear all that, you know, and 3 time zones.
Yeah.
So time.
Yeah, I'm still getting the time and everything in my head, and all the time differences is quite confusing.
It is, yeah. 3 time zones, but we're going with the race time zone the whole time, basically, you know.
Yeah.
So you have different settings, you know. So yeah, it's going to be good, you know.
Do you have any advice for Joe before he leaves?
Keep moving.
Lovely. Well, Kuzak, thank you very much. We'll go over and chat to Eamon Diver here, who's just getting the windows and stuff clean. Eamon, how are you this morning?
Not too bad, yeah. Just anticipating this start line, anxious,
Yeah.
want to get going. I mean, we've dotted the I's, crossed the T's now so many times. We're doing it again this morning, making sure we have 360 vision, that we don't miss anything. Yeah, just anxious to get going, yeah.
So, what are your hopes for the race?
A good race, a safe race, that Joe gets through it safely is the first thing. That he can do what the plan is. Obviously podium finish, push hard, and that we can support him and give him everything he needs to make sure that he executes that plan. So
this man is 60 years old.
60 years of age, yeah, but sure, that's only a number. He'll tell you that himself. So, you know, yeah.
What would you say about his form at the minute?
He looks lean. He looks mean. He looks like he's been born for this race.
Yeah,
this year.
Ready to chew the tape off the handlebars, he always says.
Absolutely, like he's done it. This is his 3rd go at it. First time, obviously he didn't make it. He learned a lot from that. Second time he came, he just wanted to finish it. He wanted to get across America. He's done that. So now it's the ultimate, get on the podium. So
well,
this is it. So
they were hopefully we do that. Well, crack on with your stuff. And guys, this, as you can see behind me, is our main follow vehicle. You can't miss this going across the States. It looks absolutely fantastic. Mark Poland has done a fantastic job of getting it all done up with all the kit, with lights, everything. Every piece of kit is in this van, and that's going to be following Joe through the States. Here's Gillian Mooney. Gillian, how are you feeling this morning?
I'm going to put the sunglasses on.
Yes.
I am feeling appropriately nervous, I think.
Yeah.
And relieved to get going, and looking forward to the adventure.
What are your hopes for this race?
Oh, I hope Joe has the race of his life. I hope he has. It's been 14 months of dedicated commitment, training, everything, and Joe and my life has been about getting here, and we're actually here, and I'm enjoying the moment that, well done us, we got here.
And you live with Joe. The last 14 months of your life has been consumed with Race Across America. What was it like living with Joe?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of people or partners that can relate to what it's like to live with an elite athlete. It's not something that Joe does, it's who he is. So it's not something you can put down at the kitchen table and ask how your day was. It comes with you in every conversation, in every waking moment, and that's just who Joe is. So it brings challenges for sure, and there's frustrations, but you're either in it with him or not, and I am in it with him. Where Joe goes, I go.
How is his form at the minute, being a 60-year-old man?
you know what, and this is the part of it, being his nutritionist is what I'm really proud of, because this is one start line. There's nothing we could have done better. His nutrition has been superb. He's in the best form of his life. He is he's just ready to do this race now, and I'm happy we've got there, no hiccups.
This first 500 miles, it's going to be very, very, very hot.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with this?
Well, that's a hydration and electrolyte issue mostly. We do have a good plan around that. Joe is a heavy sweater and a heavy sodium, and loses a lot of sodium.
Just as a rough guideline, this man could lose between 1 litre and 2 litres an hour.
It could be.
Of fluid?
Of sweat. And in that, I mean, it's one thing to replace his fluid, but it's another thing to replace all the electrolytes he's losing. So I'm expecting we'll see some, salt crusts on his race kit. So it's balancing the fluid intake with the electrolyte intake, and that's one of the reasons, well, that's the reason we use the products we use, because they come both with calories and with good amounts of electrolytes, and that's the key here. We get that wrong, and then you're looking at muscular cramps, fatigue, and we don't want any of that, because the first 500 is going to be hot. It is also going to be ferocious.
How does that weigh up with core temperature?
Well, once dehydration starts to hit, and we're going to try and keep not lose more than 2% of his body weight. That's kind of our benchmark. Once dehydration...
How do you gauge that?
We're going to be weighing him every opportunity he steps off the bike. We have his baseline body weight. He's going to step on a scales, and we're going to start to measure what is fluid loss. It's a blunt measurement, but we're racing, and that's what we have on the roadside. Once we start to drift upwards of a 3% body loss, then we're setting ourselves up for a rising core temperature. We'll also be taking his core temperature every time he steps off the bike. Obviously, things like all the water bottles and fluid that goes out of the car are going to be slushy, they're going to be ice. He's going to have that maybe 5 to 7 minutes of cold fluid going into his core. We have our ice vests frozen, we have neck vests frozen, so we're going to work with his core temperature on the inside and on the outside. And the nights are going to be welcome. Normally we dread the nights,
yes,
but
we
they're
normally
going to be
do.
welcome, because we're going to get a temperature drop, and maybe he can push on more in the nighttime. So I feel confident that we're prepared. You're never prepared for 108, 110
Yeah,
degrees.
like that's like 44 degrees, I think, is a spike around Siloam.
Yeah.
That's what, 105?
107, I think.
Yeah.
And we did recce that area specific. We stayed in Siloam overnight, and we recce'd it, so we know he's going to be in familiar ground in heat for sure, and that little bit of a tailwind that we're expecting is going to be very welcome.
Yeah, it'll be very welcome indeed. What would be your piece of advice to Joe over the entire race? What would you say to him? What's your final advice? I know it's probably a broad question, but
it's actually easy to answer, because I trust Joe implicitly. He has been doing this an awful long time. He is laser focused on a result. He is going to manage himself. He's going to manage the power output with the environmental conditions he's riding through. And my only piece of advice for Joe is to trust yourself. If he stays there, I know he's got the performance in him, and we'll be with him all the way.
Jolly many. I can feel the sun burning on the back of my neck
goodness,
here.
me too.
So
it's hot.
let's go inside. So we've been staying in the house. We've had all the kits set out. Glad to have it all in the car now, all a bit organised. Let's see who's about today. Andy.
Hello.
Hello. You're just getting your final bits.
Up my smalls.
You just get. How are you feeling this morning?
Good. We've been up early. Spent a lot of time packing up the vans. Yeah, everything's fitted in as nice as can be expected, really. So. What's
your hopes for this?
We've got to do it, So
have a bit of fun as well, right?
That's what it's all about, Bit of fun, bit of stress, people falling out with each other, but end result, we're there to race, and we'll be what we've got to do. So.
As I always said, it's one of those things that only makes sense at the finish line. All that fighting and all that, bickering will only make sense.
Yeah, it's like during the race, everyone's tired. People do things that annoy you, but you just kind of live with it, take a breath, move on. So it's racing, so.
So what are you actually doing during the race as a crew member? What's your kind of
crew member? I'll do everything and anything. Mostly it's involved with Joe's kit changes. So whenever he comes in for his long stops, just kind of get him changed, cleaned down, get him changed. Jill will be feeding him, put him to bed. Whenever he gets up, dress him again, kind of pack him up. I'm like his mummy kind of thing,
Yes.
A mummy replacement.
And you'll obviously be looking after Joe. It's quite choreographed, those kind of changes and stuff. We've went over it, we've rehearsed it.
Yeah. So we rehearse it, but then things still go wrong, So just how Joe's feeling, how everybody's feeling, kind of thing. So it'll probably take 24 hours, a couple of stops in, until we're kind of, we're truly into it. We know what works and what's not working. Every time you go racing, cars are different, vehicles are different. What works, how we're going to do it. So we've been doing it, but we still got to tweak and we still got to develop and improve. So.
Lovely. Andy Campbell, thank you very much. Crack on.
Thank you.
Let's see. The rest of the lads are outside here, sitting outside, getting the last wee bit of sun.
Yeah, there are.
One of the newer members we have is Mark Poland from the US. We're going to get a wee quick talk with him. Mark, how are you getting on this morning?
Very well, thanks. Getting ready to launch for our big day of start and heading east for a few days after that.
What do you know about the race across America?
Well, I suppose I got to answer that in three different parts. I've raced it and I've crewed it. Those are two of the parts. But both of those events were as relay teams, so 4-person teams. I've never supported a solo race before, and it's almost as though that's a completely different event, both logistically and competitively from the standpoint of what the athlete has to really go through and accomplish to get across solo versus 4-person relay.
A 60-year-old man, 3,000 miles. That's going to be some challenge.
Yes and no. For any man, it's a huge challenge. There's an interesting phenomenon I've observed over the years of being in the sport. We all think of athletic peak as being somewhere in the 25 to 32 age range. What's really going on, I think, physiologically, is that your muscles peak at that point, but your endurance actually peaks much later than that.
Yes, your mind might peak much later than that.
Your mind and also, the systems in your body that fuel those muscles, nutritionally, cardiovascularly, those can continue to advance even when the muscles are beginning to weaken. So if you look at this particular event, RAM, for example, you won't see people in the 28 to 32 range winning it. The winners are typically starting in the mid-30s and going into the mid-40s, and even guys in their early 50s are doing pretty well still, if they've trained properly, of course.
Do you think riders might need to be, how would I describe it, they've been through life, they kind of know, they're constantly being brought down with their everyday life and building back up. Do you think that strength comes over time? Do you think that increases over time?
It certainly does, but I can tell you that nothing in a regular life prepares you to do solo RAM. Even doing team RAM doesn't prepare you for doing solo RAM. And we'll see over the next couple of days where Joe's mind and the mind of the other soloists go. It's a very unfamiliar place to most of us. Very. We're talking about, an hour a day of sleep and 22 to 23 hours of pedaling. And that's not something any of us are familiar with.
What's your final piece of advice to Joe for this whole race? If you were to give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it would be, don't let the competitive moments pull you in to a level of intensity that you shouldn't be in.
Yeah. We have a set intensity for different areas of the race.
We do. And you know, you think of the stereotypical race situation where you see a competitor a mile ahead and you turn up the wick and you go a little harder to try to catch him. That wick is going to be burning for 9 days, and you really have to remove yourself from those immediate pressures. This race plays out over days, not minutes. So it's a matter of really having that long view and managing your intensity with those very subtle movements of the needle.
Mark Bowen, thank you very much. We'll speak to you at the start line. Okay. Let's see if we can speak to Joe now, folks. Joe?
Yes?
How are you doing this morning?
I'm having coffee.
How are you feeling?
Good, thank you. Good.
We'll take you outside just in the sun. So Joe, you're a 60-year-old man.
Yeah.
Sorry to say. You're about to cycle 3,000 miles across the States. What's going on there?
It was a nervous morning, that's for sure. It was very hot, and you know, this has been in the, let's call it the melting pot for the last 15 months, so it's a bit surreal whenever the time actually arrives, like, and whatever. And last night, you know, when we were at the writers' briefing, you really do start to feel
I can see it in your face.
Yeah, so all of a sudden it gets serious, and you know, we've had great fun, it's been a great run up, like, but from today on now it's all, as they call it, race face, I think. That's what we used to call it.
The first 500 miles of the race, it's going to be very, very, very hot.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with that?
Well, you know, it looks like it's going to. We weren't expecting like to be as high as it is, but it looks like it's going to spike into high 30s, especially when we get off Mojave and down in Arizona. But for me, big focus on hydration, pull out the ice vest if we have to. You know, I'm not going to panic about what that is. The little bit concerned about it is it's looking like it's a little bit of a helping tailwind, and that tends to increase the heat a little bit, like, because it's so fast.
Yeah. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other, really, or is it just more, if you can manage that, there's an advantage?
Yeah, and it really depends on how everyone else or how all the competitors start off. You know, it's very easy to get sucked into a strategy that's not actually correct, just because of the speed. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious. You know, this race isn't going to get won in the first day, but it certainly could get lost in the first day. So for me,